Howdy, howdy. So, after some due consideration and hours upon hours of deck building, I've come to the realization that I simply don't have the cards I need to build the decks that I want to build. I've built all the decks that I can reasonably build, and I'm left with only one viable competitive deck, Soldiers. And as much fun as it is to play, and it's a blast, I can imagine that after a while, it gets pretty boring to see the same creatures pulling off the same combos over and over again. So, I've got to step my game up, which means I need to buy myself some packs. Okay, we're in it to win it. Here we fucking go. Okay, just make sure, 90 packs. Okay. Project Investigator. Oh, so they give you the card and the thing, the card style. The card and the card style. 3 mana, 2/4 with flying and vigilance, and it has an upside? That's pretty good. Alright. I think we save the golden packs until last. I think that's proper etiquette, I believe. Okay. Here we go. Alright, let's start from over here. Okay. Defenestrated Phantom! I love this card, just because it's so funny. Like, how the fuck do you throw a phantom out of a window? Like, it's a phantom, it's a ghost. How do you do that? Fairy Snoop. Okay. Wait, that's actually pretty good. Ooh, the disguise cost, though. Okay. Bubble Smuggler. I've not seen this card before. 6 mana? Yeesh. Magnetic Snuff. Look at this fucking... Oh, man. That's great. That's... Look at it. What did it do? Why is that so funny? It's so funny looking. It's so goofy. When Magnetic Snuffler enters the battlefield, return target equipment card from your graveyard to the battlefield attached to the Snuffler. When you sacrifice an artifact, put a +1/+1 counter on Magnetic Snuffler. That's actually pretty good. That's a really good card for a equipment artifact deck. Lumbering Laundry, 5 mana, 4/5. 2 mana until end of turn. You may look at the face down creatures you don't control anytime. Very niche. Gleaming Geardrake. Ooh, this is a good one. I've seen this card in action. This is a good one. This is a really good one. You can build a deck around this guy. Hard-hitting questions. Target creature you control deals damage equal to its power to target creature or planeswalker you don't control. Green has so many effects like this. This is at least the 3rd card that has this kind of effect on it. Specifically, like this exact effect. Candlestick. Shove it up your ass. Equipped creature. Equipped creature gets +1/+1 and has whenever this creature attacks, Surveil 2. Another Watchdog, it doesn't add up. Insidious Roots. Creature tokens you control have add +1 mana of any color. Whenever one or more creature cards leave your graveyard, create a +0/+1 green plant creature token, then put a +1 counter on each plant you control. That is very interesting. This seems like something you could build a deck around. Neat! Let's do it all at once. Oh my god! So these are rares, and then these two are mythics. Whenever creature you control attacks, exile the top card of your library face down. You can't look at it. 1 mana, 1 red, discard your hand, sacrifice connecting the dots. Put all cards exiled with connecting the dots into their owner's hands. Oh, interesting. Disguise 1. Whenever Pyrotechnic Reformer or another creature you control is turned face up, that creature deals damage equal to its power to each opponent. Ooh, that's interesting. So you gotta pay 3 mana and then 1 more mana. So paying 4 mana to deal 3 damage. 4 mana to deal 3 damage and a 3/2 on the board. I think that's actually pretty good. White-green, return up to 1 target artifact card, up to 1 target land card, and up to 1 target non-aura enchantment card from your graveyard to the battlefield. They are 5/5 elemental creatures in addition to their other types. Wow. That's potentially 15/15 in stats, in addition to the benefits that they have. Wow, that's a game-winning play right there. Alright. Delny, Streetwise Lookout. 3 mana, 2/2. Creatures you control with power 2 or less can't be blocked by creatures with power 3 or greater. If an ability of a creature you control with power 2 or less triggers, that ability triggers an additional time. And Alquist Croft, Master Sleuth. 3 mana, 3/3 with Vigilance. When Alquist Croft, Master Sleuth enter the battlefield, investigate. X mana, 1 white, 2 blue, tap, sacrifice a clue, you draw X cards and gain X life. Interesting. Alright, let's do that 8 more times. Only 1 mythic. Let's actually do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Ooh, 2 mythic. Oh no, 2 rare. These are rare wild cards. Okay. Pretty neat. What is this guy? Kylox, Visionary Inventor, 7 mana, 4/4. Menace, Ward 2, and Haste. When it attacks, sacrifice any number of other creatures. Then exile the top X cards of your library, where X is their total power. Red-blue sacrificing its creatures? Interesting. You may cast any number of instant and or sorcery spells from among the exiled cards without paying their mana cost. Fester Leech. That poor bird. I mean, it's kind of its own fault for getting close to a thing like that. Whenever Fester Leech deals combat damage to a player, you mill 2 cards. 1 mana plus a black, Fester Leech gets +2/+2 until end of turn. Activate only once each turn. Interesting. Presumed dead. Ah, that's good. A lot of cards I already have. Murder. 3 mana, destroy target creature. That's always nice to have. Due Diligence. When it enters the battlefield, the target creature you control gets enchanted control other than enchanted creatures. +2/+2 and gains Vigilance until end of turn. Enchanted creature gets +2/+2 and has a Vigilance. Okay. Oh, I didn't reveal this guy. Tristani, 3 Whispers. 3 mana, 1 green and green. Target creature gains Death Touch until end of turn. 1 or white, 1 green or white. Target creature gains Vigilance until end of turn. 3 mana, target creature gains Double Strike until end of turn. It's a 3 mana 4/4. White green. Not bad. Ooh, we got 4. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Leyline of the Guild Pack. Green, white, green, blue, green, black, green, red. So you have to have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. You have to have all 5 colors. If Leyline of the Guild Pack is in your opening hand, you may begin the game with it on the field. Each non-land permanent you control is all colors. Lands you control are every basic land type in addition to their other types. Interesting. 1, 2, 3, 4. Ooh, a wild card. Always happy to see that. Rakdos, Patron of Chaos. 6 mana, 6/6 flying trample. At the beginning of your end step, target opponent may sacrifice 2 non-land, non-token permanents. If they don't, you draw 2 cards. Okay. Big bad boy finisher. Rakdos himself. That's fun. Expedited Inheritance. Jesus. It's dark. 2 mana. When a creature is dealt damage, its controller may exile that many cards from the top of their library. They may play those cards until the end of their next turn. Alright. Intrude on the Mind. 5 mana instant. Reveal the top 5 cards of your library and separate them into 2 piles. An opponent chooses one of the piles. Put that pile into your hand and the other pile into your graveyard. Create a 0/0 colorless Thopter artifact creature token with flying, and then put a +1/+1 counter on it for each card put into your graveyard this way. Interesting. What the fuck is that? It looks like some sort of goat bird human hybrid. Lamassu. It is a Lamassu. When it enters the battlefield, all suspected creatures are no longer suspected. When it dies, you gain 3 life and suspect up to 1 creature target creature an opponent controls. 5 mana 4/3 with flying. Clandestine Meddler. 3 mana 3/2. When it enters the battlefield, suspect up to 1 other target creature you control. Whenever 1 or more suspected creatures you control attack, suffer a 1. Neat. Black, green, crawl, whip cracker. When it enters the battlefield, destroy target token an opponent controls. It's very niche, but okay. Good sideboard target. Okay. Wow, that's just recommissioned, but better. This is literally recommissioned, but oh no, it doesn't get +1/+1. It gets flying instead. Okay. The +1/+1 is actually bit more beneficial just because of the Dusk Legion Duelist. Or you could run both of them. That would be too greedy. That would be way too greedy. Bulrak Clan Basher. 6 mana 3/2. 6 mana 3/2? I guess you can play it as a disguise, so it's 3 mana and then another 5 mana on top of that. That's ridiculous. Double strike and trample. I guess it has double strike, so it's kind of like a 6/2. Yeah, no. Hot red-handed. This spell can't be countered. This includes by the ward ability. Gain control of target creature until end of turn. Ooh, black or red. Black and red. Gain control of target creature and then sacrifice it. It gains haste until end of turn. Untapped. Mark Watch Phantom. Oh, look at his mustache. Nice. And we're done. 6 more. Teysa, Opulent Oligarch. Death Touch, 3 mana 2/3. At the beginning of your end step, investigate for each opponent who lost life this turn. Whenever a clue you control is put into a graveyard from the battlefield, create a +1 white and black spirit creature token with flying. This ability triggers only once each turn. Niv Mizzet Guild Pact. Oh, hell yeah. Hexproof from Multicolored. I would like my nose to stop itching now, please. Whenever Niv Mizzet Gold Pact deals combat damage to a player, it deals X damage to any target. Target player draws X cards, and you gain X life, where X is the number of different color pairs among permanents you control that are exactly 2 colors. I've got to build a deck around this. That sounds absolutely fucking ridiculous. Create a 2/1 black I've seen this. You have to get rid of the skeleton in order to solve it. And then when you do, you get to tutor a card. Mythic Wild card. Soul Search. Target opponent reveals their hand. You may choose a non-land card from it. Exile that card. Black and white. Or white and black, rather. If the card's mana value is 1 or less, create a 1/1 white and black spirit creature token with flying. Buried in the Garden. Enchant land. When Buried in the Garden enters the battlefield, exile target non-land permanent you don't control until Buried in the Garden leaves the battlefield. Whenever enchanted land is tapped for mana, its controller adds an additional 1 mana of any color. Interesting. That's why it costs 4 mana. Jesus. Breakout. It's Gruul. Look at the top 6 cards of your library. You may reveal a creature card from among them. If that card has mana value 2 or less, you may put it onto the battlefield and it gains haste until end of turn. If you didn't put the revealed card into the battlefield this way, put it into your hand. Put the rest on the bottom of your library in a random order. Well, if you're not putting it on the battlefield with haste, then you're really losing out on the potential of this card. So is there such thing as, well, there's the Viashino, all of the Viashino characters. There's totally such thing as an aggressive rule deck. That's interesting. Undercity Eliminator. So there's 2 different ways you could play green. I mean, there's lots of different ways to play green, but there's 2 ways that I'm considering playing green. The first is mana ramping, where you ramp with your mana so hard, and then you play out your big badass units, and you overwhelm your opponent before they can do anything to stop you. But there's also, on the other hand, the red-green, where you just overwhelm your opponents in the early game with lots of quick, hasted units and a lot of big buffs. That's interesting. That is interesting. Oh. 7 mana Disguise? Jesus. It is a finisher, though. 7 mana. Dogwalker. Woof woof. Vigilance. Disguise 2. When Dogwalker is turned face up, create 2 tapped 1/1 white dog creature tokens. Wow. That's 5/3 in stats for 2 mana. There you go. 5 more. Forensic Gadgeteer. Interesting. Create a 0/1 green plant creature token, then draw cards equal to the number of differently named creature tokens you control. That is interesting. A token green deck. Fugitive Codebreaker. Disguise 5. This cost is reduced by 1. Fugitive Codebreaker. Prowess and haste. Okay. Disguise 6. The cost is reduced by 1 for each instant and sorcery in your graveyard. When Fugitive Codebreaker is turned face up, discard your hand, then draw 3 cards. Interesting. Illicit Masquerade. Flash. 4 mana. When Illicit Masquerade enters the battlefield, put an imposter counter on each creature you control. Whenever a creature you control with an imposter counter on it dies, exile it. Return up to 1 other target creature card from your graveyard to the battlefield. Ooh. Interesting. 2 mana, 2/3. 2 mana, collect evidence 2, 10th district hero becomes a human detective with base power and toughness 4/4 and gains a vigilance. So 4 mana, it becomes a 4/4 with vigilance. 3 mana, which means it's 5 mana. Collect evidence 4. If 10th district hero is a detective, it becomes a legendary creature named Maliva the Stalwart, and its base power and toughness is 5/5, and it gains other creatures you control have indestructible. Wow. Coveted Falcon, 3 mana, 1/4. Whenever Coveted Falcon attacks, gain control of target permanent you own but don't control? What? I guess if somebody else has taken control of one of your permanents, then this can get it back for you. When it's turned face up, target opponent gains control of any number of target permanents you control. Draw a card for each one they gained control of this way. Ah, I see. That's a dangerous game. Put X +1/+1 counters on target creature you control. Then counter up to 1 target spell unless its controller pays mana equal to the greatest power among creatures you control. Nice. Whisk Drinker Vampire. Whenever another creature with power 2 or less enters the battlefield under your control, each opponent loses 1 life and you gain 1 life. 7 mana. Creatures you control with power 2 or less gain Death Touch and Lifelink until end of turn. Interesting. Forum Familiar. 1 mana, 1/1. Disguise 2. When it's turned face up, and return another target permanent you control from its owner's hand and put it. Return another target permanent you control to its owner's hand and put a +1/+1 counter on Forum Familiar. So it's a bounce. Oh hey, this is what was on the totally normal event. Exit Specialist. Exit Specialist can't be blocked by creatures with power 3 or greater. Disguise 2. When it's turned up, exile target creature to its owner's hand. Return, not exile. Griffknot Tracker. When it enters the battlefield, exile up to 2 target cards from a single graveyard. Very interesting, very interesting. It enters tapped. When Public Thoroughfare enters the battlefield, sacrifice it unless you tap an untapped artifact or land you control. Tap, add 1 mana of any color. So basically it costs 1 mana, or you have to sacrifice an artifact. Oh, you don't have to sacrifice the artifact, you just have to tap it. It costs tapping an artifact or a land. Okay. Alright, 4 more. One, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Sharp Eye. Let's go from this way. Tolsimir, Midnight's Light. White-green, legendary creature, Elf Scout. 5 mana, 3/2. When it enters the battlefield, create Voja Fenstalker, a legendary 5/5 green and white wolf creature token with trample. Whenever a wolf you control attacks, ooh, it's a wolf deck. Nice. When a wolf you control attacks, if Tolsimir attacked this combat, target creature and opponent control blocks that wolf this combat if able. That's awesome. Sharp-Eyed Rook, 2 mana, 2/2. Vigilance. Whenever a creature enters the battlefield under your control, if its power is greater than Sharp-Eyed Rookie's power, or its toughness is greater than Sharp-Eyed Rookie's toughness, put a +1/+1 counter on Sharp-Eyed Rookie and investigate. Interesting. Ah, another Tristani. Very interesting, very interesting. Coerced to Kill. 5 mana, enchantment aura. Enchant creature. You control enchanted creature. Enchanted creature has base power and toughness 1/1, has death touch, and is an assassin in addition to its other types. Frantic Scapegoat, 2 of them right next to each other. When it enters the battlefield, suspect it. It has haste. Whenever 1 or more other creatures enter the battlefield under your control, if it is suspected, you may suspect one of the creatures. If you do, Frantic Scapegoat is no longer suspected. Ooh, Private Eye. It's a detective deck card. 3 mana, 3/3. Other detectives you control get +1/+1. Whenever you draw your second card each turn, target detective can't be blocked this turn. I got beat the fucking shit out of by this card, and I can't remember what the other card was. But they blasted me. They blasted my ass. It was impressive. A whole lot of cards that we already have. Fan-fucking-tastic. 3 more! One, two, three, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9! Lamplight Phoenix. When it dies, you may exile it and collect evidence 4. If you do, return Lamplight Phoenix to the battlefield tapped. Hide in plain sight. Look at the top 5 cards of your library, cloak 2 of them, and put the rest on the bottom of your library in random order. To cloak a card, put it onto the battlefield face down as a 2/2 creature with ward 2. Turn it face up anytime for its mana cost if it's a creature card. That seems pretty strong. Ill-timed Explosion. 4 mana. Draw 2 cards. Then you may discard 2 cards. When you do, Ill-timed Explosion deals X damage to each creature, where X is the greatest mana value among cards discarded this way. Ooh, big board wipe. And a mythic wild card. Meddling Youths. Oh, she's removing the mask. 5 mana, 4/5 with haste. Whenever you attack with 3 or more creatures, investigate. Mistway Spy. 1 mana, 1/1 with flying. Disguise. When it is turned up until end of turn, whenever a creature you control deals combat damage to a player, investigate. That's interesting. Sanctuary Wall. Artifact creature. It's a wall! 2 mana, 0/4. 3 mana, tap target creature. You may put a stun counter on it. If you do, put a stun counter on Sanctuary Wall. Interesting. Okay. Okay. A lot of stuff that we already had. That's fine. Do-do-do-do-do. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Kylox, 2 Kylox. That's pretty fantastic. Ooh, nice. An Aurelia. Whenever a player attacks with 3 or more creatures, you draw a card. Whenever a player attacks with 5 or more creatures, Aurelia the Law above deals 3 damage to each of your opponents, and you gain 3 life. Yeah, that seems like a natural fit for my Soldiers deck. As a one-of. Not bad. Rare wild card. Fuck yeah. Doppelgang. 5 mana with triple X mana. For each of X target permanents, create X tokens that are copies of that permanent. Okay, so let me see if I understand this card. Let's assume that you spend 2 mana. For each of 2 target permanents, create 2 tokens that are copies of that permanent. But you gotta spend 8 mana. So if you spend 1 mana, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, for each of 1 target permanents, you create 1 token that's a copy of that permanent. Interesting. Push and Pull. Destroy target tapped creature. Put up to 2 target creature cards from a single graveyard onto the battlefield under your control. They gain haste until end of turn. Sacrifice them at the beginning of your next end step. Not bad. Nice! As long as it's your turn, equipped creature gets +1 and has first strike. That's kind of like how Quick Attack works in Legends of Runeterra. Cool beans, cool beans. Last one. Here we go. Give me something good. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Zoni, Center of the Web. 6 mana, 5/4 with Menace. Whenever a Zoni, Center of the Web enters the battlefield or attacks, you may collect evidence 4. If you do, create 2 2/1 black and green creature spider tokens with Menace and Reach. Sacrifice 4 tokens, surveil 2, then draw 2 cards. You gain 2 life. Nice. Reenact the Crime, 4 mana with 3 blue. Exile target non-land card in a graveyard that was put there from anywhere this turn. Copy it. You may cast the copy without paying its mana cost. Impressive. Case of the Locked Hothouse. You may play an additional land on each of your turns. Ooh, yes! Fantastic! To solve, you control 7 or more lands, if unsolved, at the beginning of your end step. If unsolved, solve at the beginning of your end step. Solved, you may look at the top card of your library anytime, and you may play lands and cast creature and enchantment spells from the top of your library. This is a fantastic card. I am so happy that I picked this up. Let's see what this is. Vein Ripper, 6 mana, 6/5. Flying Ward, sacrifice a creature. Whenever a creature dies, target opponent loses 2 life and you gain 2 life. Okay. Big Boss. Let's see, did we get anything else interesting? It appears that we did not. Alright. Let's see what we got. La. Look at all this. Do. Judith! It's Judith! I have Judith the Scourge Diva in real life. What does this Judith do? She's Rakdos, obviously. Whenever you cast an instant or sorcery spell, choose one. That spell gains Death Touch and Lifelink, or create a 2/2 red imp creature token with this creature. When this creature dies, it deals 2 damage to each opponent. Nice. It's a goblin. 3 mana, 3/3. Sacrifice an artifact. Add an amount of red mana equal to the sacrificed artifact's mana value. Spend this mana only to cast artifact spells or activate abilities of artifacts. Defiler of Instinct. Creature Phyrexian Kavu. 4 mana, 4/4 with first strike. As an additional cost to cast red permanent spells, you may pay 2 life. Those spells cost 1 red mana less to cast if you paid life this way. Okay, so it's essentially giving all red mana spells Phyrexian mana. This effect reduces only the amount of red mana you pay. Whenever you cast a red permanent spell, Defiler of Instinct deals 1 damage to any target. Right on. So this is like hella Phyrexian synergy. It's not even Phyrexian synergy, it's just red synergy. You can see this fitting in as the top end of that deck with the Kessig Flame Breathers that I faced up against yesterday. Interesting. War Leader's Call, enchantment. Creatures you control get +1/+1. Whenever a creature enters the battlefield under your control, War Leader's Call deals 1 damage to each opponent. I'm not sure if I like that in my Boros deck or not. I mean, it seems pretty darn good, right? But is it worth a slot? I don't know. Visions of Phyrexia. At the beginning of your upkeep, exile the top card of your library. You may play that card this turn. At the beginning of your end step, if you don't play a card from exile this turn, create a tapped Power Stone token. This mana can be spent to cast an artifact spell. It has to be spent on an artifact spell. Drana and Linvana. 4 mana. Legendary creature Vampire Angel. Flying Vigilance. 3/4. Activated abilities of creatures your opponents control can't be activated. Drana and Linvala has all activated abilities of all creatures your opponents control. You may spend mana as though it were mana of any color to activate those abilities. That's fucking nuts. Bloated Contaminator. Ew. If I do want to make a poison deck, I've got the card, or at least one of them. Oh shit. Whoops. Oh well. Malcolm, Alluring Scoundrel. 2 mana, 2/1, flash with flying. When it deals damage to combat damage to a player, put a chorus counter on it. Draw a card, then discard a card. If there are 4 or more chorus counters on Malcolm, you may cast the discarded card without paying its mana cost. Interesting. Exile all creatures. Incubate X, where X is the number of creatures exiled this way. That's strong. That is going in my Azorius deck. That's fantastic. That is so good for my Azorius deck. I love this. This is great. Tishana's Tidebender. Ooh, it's a counterspell. 3 mana, 3/2, flash. Whenever Tishana's Tidebender enters the battlefield, counter up to 1 target activated or triggered ability. If an ability of an artifact, creature, or planeswalker is countered this way, that permanent loses all abilities for as long as Tishana Tidebender remains on the battlefield. Mana abilities can't be targeted. Interesting. Seems pretty good. Soul Partition. 2 mana instant. Exile target non-land permanent. For as long as that card remains exiled, its owner may play it. A spell cast by an opponent this way costs 2 more to cast. Oh, okay. That's okay, I guess. Assassin's Trophy. Destroy target permanent an opponent controls. Its controller may search their library for a basic land card, put it onto the battlefield, then shuffle. Doomskar Warrior. 4 mana, 4/3, backup 1. Trample. When this creature deals combat damage to a player or battle, look at that many cards from the top of your library. You may reveal the creature or land card from among them and put it into your hand. Put the rest on the bottom of your library in a random order. Ooh, here we go. Here's a big boy. That is 7 mana. Legendary creature Treefolk. 4/10. Treefolk you control have vigilance. Whenever 1 or more Treefolk you control attack, add twice that much green mana. You don't lose unspent green mana as steps and phases end. Okay, that's a big boy. That's one big boy right there. That's one big boy. Braids, Arisen Nightmare. Legendary creature Nightmare. 3 mana, 3/3. At the beginning of your end step, you may sacrifice an artifact, creature, enchantment, land, or planeswalker. If you do, each opponent may sacrifice a permanent that shares a card type with it. For each opponent who doesn't, that player loses 2 life and you draw a card. Very interesting. Gixian Puppeteer. 4 mana, 4/3. Whenever you draw your second card each turn, each opponent loses 2 life and you gain 2 life. Ooh, that's perfect with Phyrexian Arena. When Gixian Puppeteer dies, return another target creature card with mana value 3 or less from your graveyard to the battlefield. Wow! This card is fan-fucking-tastic. This is like a 4 of in every black deck that has creatures. Vindictive Flamestoker. 1 mana, 1/2. Whenever you cast a non-creature spell, put an oil counter on Vindictive Flamestoker. 7 mana, 6 mana and a red, sacrifice Vindictive Flamestoker. Discard your hand, then draw 4 cards. This ability costs 1 less to activate for each oil counter on Vindictive Flamestoker. Okay. I can see this going in the Kessig Flame Breather deck as well. Very interesting. Restless Anchorage. Enters tapped, add a blue or a white. 3 mana until end of turn. Restless Anchorage becomes a 2/3 white and blue bird creature with flying. It's still a land. Whenever Restless Anchorage attacks, create a map token. 1 mana, tap, sacrifice this artifact. Target creature you control explores, which means Reveal the top card of your library, put that card into your hand if it's a land, otherwise put a +1/+1 counter on this creature. Then put the card back or put it into your graveyard. Nice. And another Gixian Puppeteer. Fan-fucking-tastic. Pugnacious Hammerskull. When oh shit, 3 mana 6/6. Whenever Pugnacious Hammerskull attacks while you don't control another dinosaur, put a stun counter on it. Ah, so it's a dinosaur deck. Interesting. Interesting. King Darien the 14th? No, that's not the 14th. The XL. The 54th? XLVII. Let's look that up. XLVII. 47. King Darien the 47th. 3 mana, 2/3. Other creatures you control get +1/+1. 5 mana, put a +1/+1 counter on King Darien and create a +1/+1 white creature soldier token. Sacrifice King Darien. Creature tokens you control gain hexproof and indestructible until end of turn. Okay, so this is kind of like if I were to make a Boros-esque green-white deck, which would be really easy to do. It's interesting. Case of the Uneaten Feast. When a creature enters the battlefield under your control, you gain 1 life. To solve, you've gained 5 or more life this turn. If unsolved, solve at the beginning of your end step. Solved. Sacrifice this case. Creature cards in your graveyard gain. You may cast this card from your graveyard until end of turn. Wow. That seems really good. Cards. 4 mana. Create a Power Stone token. Has to be spent on an artifact. Pay any amount of mana, look at that many cards from the top of your library, then put one of those cards into your hand and the rest into the bottom of your library in a random order. You get an emblem with tap an untapped artifact you control. This emblem deals... You get an emblem with tap an untapped artifact you control. This emblem deals 1 damage to any target. Okay. That seems kind of weak, but okay. When Invasion of Ravnica enters the battlefield, exile target non-land permanent an opponent controls that isn't exactly 2 colors. Guild-Pact Paragon. Whenever you cast a spell that's exactly 2 colors, look at the top 6 cards of your library. You may reveal a card that's exactly 2 colors from among them and put it into your hand. Put the rest on the bottom of your library in a random order. Ooh, another 8. I was going to say 6. 8 mana. It is a dinosaur. Ah, it's an artifact. The Skull Spore Nexus. This spell costs X less to cast, where X is the greatest power among creatures you control. Whenever 1 or more non-token creatures you control die, create a green fungus dinosaur creature token with base power and toughness each equal to the power of those creatures. 2 mana and a tap, double target creature's power until end of turn. Damn, that's no wonder it's 8 mana. That's strong as fuck. Hylox's Voltstrider. 3 mana, 4/4 artifact vehicle. Collect evidence 6. Hylox's Voltstrider becomes an artifact creature until end of turn. When it attacks, you may cast an instance or sorcery from among cards exiled with it. If that spell would be put into a graveyard, put at the bottom of its owner's library instead. Grewtooth. Shimmel, the Inner Sun. Spells you control can't be countered. The beginning of your end step, discover 5. Interesting. Ooh, yes! Yes! This is what I've been looking for! Ghalta, Stampede Tyrant. 8 mana, 12/12. Trample. When Galta Stampede Tyrant enters the battlefield, put any number of creature cards from your hand onto the battlefield? Holy cannoli. Okay, we have a finisher, ladies and gentlemen. We have a finisher. Sarkhan, Soul of Flame, 3 mana, 2/4. Dragon spells you cast cost 1 less to cast. Whenever a dragon enters the battlefield under your control, you may have Sarkhan, Soul of Flame, become a copy of it until end of turn, except its name is Sarkhan, Soul of Flame, and it's legendary in addition to its other types. Nice.
And they never learn not to mess with me.
The Pride of Whole Clay. 11 mana. This spell costs X less to cast, where X is the total toughness of creatures you control. Defender. 2 colorless and 2 blue until end of turn. Target creature you control gets +1 attack and gains. Whenever this creature deals combat damage to a player, draw cards equal to its toughness, and can attack as though it didn't have Defender. You can draw 15 cards? That's insane. But you have to go into blue to do it. Okay. Blossoming Tortoise, 4 mana, 3/3. When Blossoming Tortoise enters the battlefield or attacks, mill 3 cards. Then return a land card from your graveyard to the battlefield tapped. Activated abilities of lands you control cost 1 less to activate. Land creatures you control get +1/+1. Okay. That fits into my mana ramp deck. It's a 4 mana 3/3. I don't know. Maybe it does. Maybe it doesn't. Sulfum Mayhem Dominus, 4 mana 5/4. If a source you control would deal non-combat damage to an opponent or a permanent an opponent controls, it deals double that damage to that player or permanent instead. 1 colorless and 2 Phyrexian red. Discard 2 cards, put an indestructible counter on Sulfum Mayhem Dominus. Strong. Jaya, Fiery Negotiator. 4 mana, 4 countered Planeswalker. Create a 1/1 red monk creature token with prowess. Prowess, okay. Exile the top 2 cards of your library. Choose one of them. You may play that card this turn. -2, choose target creature an opponent controls whenever you attack this turn. Jaya, the Fiery Negotiator, deals damage equal to the number of attacking creatures to that creature. Nice. -8, you get an emblem with whenever you cast a red instant or sorcery spell, copy it twice. You may choose new target for the copies. I mean, if you get to 8, that means you've created 4 1/1s with prowess. If you haven't won the game by then, I mean, that's wild. That's just insane. Alright. That's it. Took an hour and a half to go through all those cards. Actually, not nearly as long as I thought it was going to be. Now I want to build some decks. With my new cards. That was nuts. I'm pretty happy that I'm happy. I'm satisfied with the cards that I got. I picked up some big beefy boys, and I'm happy. I'm a happy man right now. Things went well. Alright. If you made it this far, you're a fucking legend, and I hope that your coffee is always the right temperature. Good luck and have fun out there, y'all. And I'll see you in the next vid.